Uber got started in June 2010, and at the beginning, we didn't have grand plans for building this big business. We just wanted to be able to push a button and get a ride in San Francisco. And we wanted it to be a classy ride. And so that's what we created. And we really created it was for my co-founder and myself and our 100 closest friends. And we just wanted to be baller and SF. And that worked out for a while, but like I started getting emails from friends in like elementary school saying, hey, remember me, like let me use this too, and pretty soon we just opened it up to everybody. We're in over 30 cities right now around the world. 20 of those are in the US, so we're starting to get a stronger international presence. Drivers on Uber are doing hundreds of thousands of hours per week. We're doing over 20% month-over-month growth, and having double-digit market share in terms of transportation or sort of size of the overall personal transportation market in many of our cities around the world. We make sure when we go into cities we're legal, but that does not mean that the taxi industry is happy to see us there. And they haven't had competition for often decades. And not just have they not had competition, they've limited the number of cars that are allowed so that they could buoy what's called a medallion, the price of a medallion. A medallion is a license to own and operate a single taxi. Now that does not mean your taxi driver is a millionaire. What happens is anybody who owns that license is renting it out to taxi drivers. And they'll rent one of these licenses out for 80 grand a year, right? That is one good car rental business, right? So they're trying to protect that cash flow. They've typically protected that cash flow by limiting the number of taxis in a market. In New York, there are 13,500 taxis, which is about the same number as there were in the late 1940s in New York. And so because of that artificial limit, it can be hard to get around a lot of cities. And the way we think about that resistance is in terms of our principles. And our principles are that we're trying to make cities easier to get around, right? So make cities more efficient, make it easier to move from point A to point B, and help the city citizens do that. But there's a driver side of that equation too, which is helping them make a better living, helping them feed their families, and ultimately helping them build their own small business. And so when we go into cities, we see the resistance. The resistance comes from another set of principles on the taxi industry side, which is limit supply, maximize that limited supply in terms of how much they can get, how much rents they can appropriate from it, and limit options for riders and for drivers in getting around the city. I started my last company that I started in January 2001. It was a networking software company in January 2001 when networking software was going like this, right? So yeah, it was about 4 or 5 years too early to market. The first 4 years I didn't pay myself. Over a total of 7 years, we had raised $1.5 million. So you get a sense of how small it was, right? I mean, you're basically talking about 200 grand a year if you split it out over those 7 years. I like to call it blood, sweat, and ramen, right? And that hardness, though, makes you really focused, and it makes you good at all the things that you need to do to make a business succeed. And I think when it's the hard times, you really hone your skills so that when the good times come, you're lethal, you're really efficient, right? So it's easy, right, when you push a button and a car comes. It's just magical. It feels like you're living in the future. But a substantial part of our engineering, the engineering side of the business is dedicated towards mathematics and logistics. We have a couple nuclear physicists, we have a machine learning expert, a computational neuroscientist, and a bunch of other guys. And the way we look at it is, like you think of FedEx, you use FedEx to deliver a package tomorrow. Uber delivers packages too. It just so happens that that package is a town car. and we're delivering those packages in 5 minutes. The math that goes into making sure that there's always a package that's 5 minutes away from you, wherever you are in a city, is actually quite difficult, right? You have to do demand prediction, what we call supply matching, supply positioning, complex dispatch algorithms, even dynamic pricing for when demand is outstripping supply. Essentially what we're creating is a marketplace for transportation, for riders and for drivers, and really creating an efficient sort of matching so that we can find market equilibrium. And there's a huge amount of math in making that market, as well as in the logistics to make sure that it all works.